If you enjoy the Chicago baseball,
You don't want me to say that?
1-2. Swinging a drive toward right center. Back goes Robert. Back near the stands. That ball is gone. A game-winning home run for Chris Morel. Can you believe it? Listen to this crowd.
Welcome back to the Brother of the Cubs podcast. I'm your little brother, Zach, and that's my big brother, John. We're your brothers who love everything Cubs baseball. If you enjoy Chicago baseball, then hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and join us every week as we dive into one of the teams in the National League vying for a top draft pick.
we'd like to start off each podcast with a playful question for all 104 of our subscribers. Before we get to the playful question, we'd like to shout out to all of you listening today and thank you for talking Cubs baseball with us. Today, Zach, I ask you our playful question, which is, what are some of Jed Hoyer's favorite hobbies?
So I'm going to say stamp collecting, coin collecting, shopping at Dollar General, finding value in the things in life and the little things, maybe bird watching.
Just chilling out on his yacht also from all that money that he's saving right now.
Right, yeah. They just gives Jed all the money. Tom does. That's what they do with the savings.
Here, Jed, go buy a yacht. No, I mean, I just yeah, I was gonna say a thriftsman. He's a thriftsman.
He's a thriftsman.
I don't even know if that's is that a thing? I don't even know.
Oh yeah, I mean it certainly is. That's what I describe myself as.
I think
frequent goodwill.
Yeah. I think he's also into teasing. Like, I mean, that could go many avenues.
Right.
Really could.
Keep it PG.
Let's keep it PG. But yeah, no, I was just reading that it took him a month to get the Isaac Paredes deal done. Was that really? Like, I couldn't imagine working with Jed for that long on a deal. I would just be, cannot imagine just waking up for a conference call every morning. It's just, okay, hey there, how's it going? So I have this deal.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
Bigge and Triantos.
I'm sure if anything, it kind of sold me on the fact that he maybe doesn't do a good job of getting this stuff done. Like if it was AJ Preller or someone like that, I mean, or some of these other GMs who made tons of deals. I'm not saying he can't make a deal, but that is a long time to, like, maybe he didn't have the right pieces and the Rays had to slowly, inch towards that deal. I don't know.
I just, I could accept a month if it was like, a 3-team deal or 4-team deal, and it's like multiple, like more than 5 or 6 players. It's a pretty epic deal, but I'm a month. It's like, how slow are we working here, Jed?
Should probably not tell the media about your ineptness, Jed Hoyer. Like,
yeah, it's not a good look. But anyways, excuse the lighting if you're the audio peeps right now. My video is, I've got Jesus on right over my head right here. It's messing with the lighting here, so my apologies. But anyways, did that go final? Did that Cubs game go final? Cubs and Reds?
It certainly did. It's about to. I think we can count it final.
Yeah. So 13 runs. This is what everybody's always talking about. They put up an insane amount of runs, enough to win a ball game. And then the next game, they'll just absolutely shit the bed and end up with like 0 or 1 run.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, where does this offense go? You wonder. I know maybe something was wrong with Nick Lodolo, or I don't know. He just wasn't on it. He wasn't having a great night. I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
It's just confusing.
No idea.
It's confusing. Like, you don't know what to expect, really. Like, one day they're going to break out, the next they're, going to put up 0 runs or 1 run. It's like,
yeah, like 2 hits.
2 or 4 hits. like 1 or 2 people are doing all the hitting.
Yeah.
So, anyways, assuming that goes final, it's still in the bottom of the 9th, but you never know. They are going to take that game. They've lost 2-3 to the Reds at Great American Ballpark. Obviously, we mentioned, they're still behind, 6 games back of 500 at 52 and 58. Again, assuming they win tonight. They had a lot of players available at the trade deadline. Zach, you and I have talked about this. And I read recently that Jed Hoyer had, I guess, allegedly, other deals in the fire, but only 3 of them made sense to them. So they were presented with deals that didn't really make sense for them. The other teams have not really come to light, at least right now. So we don't know who it was they were talking with, but they only had 3 deals that were kind of. I mean, I liked one of them. The Paredes, we talked about that on the last podcast. Coming to Chicago for Christopher Morel, Hunter Bigge, and Ty Johnson. I like that deal. I think giving up Bigge is, he has closer potential, I think, and so that kind of hurt a little bit. Morel, I'm kind of over Morel. So, I mean, he, obviously had 2 home runs the last 2 days.
Yeah.
So
it's that to me is, I know we'll get onto it later. We're going to break down all 3 trades that they made, and they could have made more, but to me, I think the underrated piece of that trade is Hunter Bigge. I think he's the difference between Morel and Paredes in terms of what got it over the finish line. That's certainly, you're giving up a lot right there as a controllable relief pitcher that throws very fast, has good stuff, good command. That it sucks. I mean, you're right. It sucks. I wish they could have given up less, because I was looking forward to him pitching in the second half. I thought they were going to trade older relievers and whatever they were going to do and give room for Hunter Bigge to pitch. So now I'm like, I don't know who I'm looking forward to watching on the younger side. Little's out for the season. Maybe Ethan Roberts or guys like that. So
yeah, I think that's also a major positive. I was like, okay, well, this gives room for Ethan Roberts, and that's who I thought about, because I was bummed when he went back down. He was called up, I think, a month ago or so, and then, man, just and he did really well. I mean, he was starting to, make his comeback and really, get his feet under him, and so that was kind of a bummer. But it's good that it's great that he's back. And so I'm really curious to see how well he does. I don't know if he pitched today, but not really paying attention much to these games.
How can you?
It's difficult unless I'm working for like Marquee or
right. If they're paying you, maybe
if they're paying me,
maybe
sense. Then maybe I'll do my job.
Well, I mean, look at like Sharma and Mooney over the Athletic. They're like, we're not even going to cover the games. It's like they just got to put out content that makes sense. And if it's not really generating clicks to talk about, they even said they can't really talk about the games when they're losing, because it's not going to generate like clicks or views. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're basically like saying they will cover the games individually or in closer look when they're competing for the division, because that is more exciting for fans to talk about when they're competing for the division. They have something to talk about in that sense. They're like, we can't really discuss it as much, or the Cubs just keep losing over and over and over again. So
Smiley pitched today, Miller, and Hodge. Smiley was one of those that I think we both thought would be moved in the deadline, and then Neris, I think we both thought. Well, I did. I don't know. What say you, good sir?
Yeah, those in Talkman. I thought Talkman was for sure going to go. He's under control. He's been good the last couple of years. He's at least a capable, base runner and defender, and I think he can play multiple spots in the outfield. So, and he's even batted leadoff, and he had something like a 15% walk rate at one point. So you think teams would be begging to take on his deal for like $1 million a year, 700K, whatever the number is, and they did not. So I think that was a major failure too, because you could have, not that you could have got a major, he's not going to be important for you in 2025. That's why I think Hoyer failed this trade deadline, because they could have put together at least a few packages, recouped some AA players, and done some work, but they held on to it, almost look like they're trying to compete in 2024. But I don't know.
Yeah. So in other deals that the Cubs made, they acquired Nate Pearson from the Blue Jays for Yohendrick Pinango and Josh Rivera. Pinango had 4 years at South Bend. Rivera had a 537 OPS at AA this year. So what are your thoughts, Zach, on that?
Yeah, I think that this is a good trade, despite the fact that Pearson does not have a good ERA, but he's got good stuff. He drilled Tyler Stevenson in the head, which he did on purpose to show him that he meant business.
Could you walk our audience through?
Yeah,
what happened? Because you're explaining about that was pretty funny. Elise Menaker
Elise Menaker is saying on Marquee that Pearson is going to be a solid option for the Cubs next year. They're going to work on getting the ball in the ballpark. And then he gives up a tank 755 feet to Jeimer Candelario of the Reds, threw it down the middle. And then Elise kind of walks back those comments a little bit, saying, you can see right there, that's something they need to work on. They just need to get that better for him. And then they'll start to see the improvements. They think he's going to be a solid relief pitcher. And then like the very next pitch, he throws it at Stevenson's head, which in all seriousness was not retaliation, but he got thrown out of the game.
It's not funny. Yeah, I mean, I'm laughing at Menaker, at least Menaker, not Stevenson. I mean, that's real serious, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing at someone's head. It's crazy, like how wild he was. Like you would think, like, okay, I want to make a better impression than that. Like something is clearly off with this guy.
He is
arm slot or something is wrong, and they just. I mean, do you even run him out there anymore? Like, you know what I mean? Do you just shut him down?
You just traded for
give him an
so.
injury, like phantom IL. He Pearson? Just got here. I don't know. I'm just thinking, like,
dude, you're crazy.
If he's
the season
that
wild, is over. Like, what are you competing for? If this is a team that's competing, like, you don't. Who cares?
Don't want to. If his control is that wild, I mean,
if it is, I mean, look at Jose Cuas. That dude is throwing the ball 3 feet out of the other batter's box, and they kept fielding him. Eventually, they DFA'd him because Pearson has good stuff. He throws fast. I think he actually had a good inning before that. I think he had a strikeout or two, and then he had that bad inning. But he has the K stuff. He's wild. So it's a low buying type trade. You're not giving up a lot of prospects to get him. It was almost like a DFA type trade, if I recall. So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, let's see what we got. Get him for next year. Let's get him in the lab, see what's going on with his arm slot this year, and then improve him for next year. And if next year he sucks, just DFA him. I think this is a fine move. Pinango, 22 years old, still pretty young, was stuck at like South Bend. I don't know. He wasn't terrible, but he needs to make the next step. The Cubs have a glut of outfielders.
That's a long time, man. 4 years. He was at South Bend for.
I was shocked. I mean, I
would have moved on after that and just applied at, like, I don't know, Home Depot or Best Buy or.
Yeah, he was there for a long time. You could also get stuck at Best Buy for 4 years, but
you could. It's a big place, yeah.
Josh Rivera was actually a 3rd-round pick last year in the same draft as Matt Shaw, and he had an okay year in his debut, but then this year at 537 OPS at AA. So if apparently a good defender is what I heard, but then he's not putting it all together. Another trade the Cubs made was the Mark Leiter trade to the Yankees for Jack Neely, right-handed relief pitcher, and then infielder Ben Cowles. And I was just going to say that Josh Rivera did much worse than Cowles at Double A. They each played at Double A, and they were complete opposite players.
Yeah,
So
Cowles was hitting what, like 295 or something like that before his wrist injury.
yeah, an
it's like
848 OPS, so 300 points better than Rivera, which sounds like a typo, but no,
yeah.
that's a real number. So
And did you know he was teammates with Matt Shaw
Matt
too?
Shaw, exactly.
Yeah,
So
so
look at the contrast there. Uh, yeah, that's awesome. This is um I agree with what you said that the Paredes trade makes sense, and I wanted to point out that Greg Huss kind of pointed this out. If you look at the trade deadline, it was like you're comparing Paredes versus Morel, which I think is a win. Nate Pearson versus Leiter Jr. Obviously, it's a loss because you still need to sell, so you're going to see some losses on some of those comparisons. Neely versus Hunter Bigge, it's close, still TBD. Neither of them have
right.
much time in the big leagues, if any. And then Cowles versus Rivera, Ben Cowles from the Yankees at Double A, Rivers Rivera. So far, that looks like a W based on the fact that he's putting up really good numbers as a utility infielder, but Cowles is apparently out for the year.
Right.
So not a good scouting report in that sense that you can't see him this year, but
Yeah.
um,
They probably figured it. It's one thing if he was killing it at like AAA, and he was really close to possibly breaking into the majors. Like, but he's obviously probably gonna start the year at AA.
yeah,
Anyways, you know
I
what I mean?
mean,
Like even like I would think him might move up to AAA, but he's gonna probably start at AA next year. So
and maybe he's there quickly and just moves on because it just depends on the injuries. AAA's been injured a lot this year, like just the infield, Mervis, Luis Vasquez, and BJ Murray somehow were all injured. I was wondering why I didn't recognize anyone in the infield. I'm like, who are these
mm,
guys? What happened? It's like, oh yeah, Mervis. All these guys are hurt. So that that alone would have been a reason to get Cowles up sooner, or maybe you have some churn in the offseason and then hopefully quickly makes his way up to AAA because he's hitting well at Double A. Shaw is hitting well at Double A as well, so I bet he will make it up quickly.
yeah, he should. So just to recap, we traded, just to be clear, Mark Leiter Jr. for Jack Neely and Ben Cowles. And yeah, like we were saying, Neely and Biggie, it's almost a toss up. It's kind of undecided right now, but I mean, we'll see, over the next year or so. Like you're saying, I mean, Cowles is OPS is really sticking out to me. I don't know, 848 OPS.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
I think he's
And
a
a 17%
lefty.
strikeout rate.
Yeah, this guy has got that's what I'm saying. He's got a really good approach. I think what happened was the Yankees had these guys as like 10th and 11th round picks or whatever, deeper stashes, but he had really good numbers. Sometimes that happens where guys sneak in under the radar. And I think that's sort of was related to them on the Morel trade, Ty Johnson. We
Yeah.
didn't talk about him just really quick as he was kind of a throw in, but he had a good ERA at High A South Bend, and he was like a 15th round pick,
Wow.
3.62 ERA. Apparently, a really good fastball, good slider. Yeah. So good numbers for him so far. Still very far away from the majors, but sometimes you can sort of catch lightning in a bottle with some of these guys, go under the radar, and they put up a good season, even though they weren't expected to be a top prospect. These guys are in the 20s of the Yankee system. And so the Cubs it's funny, it was a seller's market. They could have made a lot of trades and they prioritized trying to stay flexible for 2025. So they kind of see some of these deals they made and they really could have capitalized on reloading, but apparently the deals are falling apart because they just couldn't get enough major league, win ready or win now, major league ready talent, right?
Right.
So that's the issue with some of these deals is they maybe could have gotten low A and high A players that would be ready in 3 or 4 years, but they're like, you know what? We need to win now. So maybe they're going to focus on 2025, but they'll still have to figure out how to, be flexible with what they have. They still have to move off some guys, right? Neris has an option for next year. That's a guy you could have traded. Maybe they don't vest his option. Maybe they haven't pitched just short of it. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, so with the money, I think money was a big part of it, as far as these deals not getting done, and like you said, Neris has was it a player option for next year?
Yes, if
So
if it's like 50 something innings, so
which he'll probably get there. So I mean, it's you can kind of see why maybe some teams didn't quite do a deal with the Cubs on some of their relievers, but like I said, Smiley should have gone. I thought Tyone was definitely going to go. Do you think it was a mistake pitching him? Like, do you think they were still trying to boost his trade value by sending him out there? Like, or they're just trying to get a win? Like,
it's inexplicable. I mean, I have no idea why you'd send a guy out the day before the deadline. It's almost unheard of. They must have just really not been close. And the only thing I've been coming back to is the Cubs have been severely injured this year. And they maybe were like, you know what, Tyone actually might provide some value, or we can move on from him at a different time in a trade when he has less years on his deal, maybe closer to more expiring. Maybe teams don't want to take on this money. And the Cubs couldn't take on enough money to where they're like, it's a risk. And the Cubs might have said, you know what, we didn't get a big enough return for him, so we're just not going to move him. And ultimately, they're like, hey, we're going to pitch him because we have to. And the Cubs don't really have any internal options to replace him right now anyways. Everyone's hurt. So they're like, if we get hurt again next year, we need Tyone in the middle of that rotation to keep us afloat for a while. And that's largely kind of what he did this year until they started falling more apart.
Yeah, I mean, some people were saying, well, they could have who pitched after him? I forgot. Was it it was Justin Steele, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Steele didn't pitch well. Yeah, Steele could have pitched on that day, but
he could have pitched, before Tyone, and then, but I mean, this season's kind of
it's in the tank. It's in the trash.
Yeah, could have, should have, would have.
But one last closing thought for us today: are you excited about November and December? Other than some things that are coming up, like the pumpkin spice latte. There's some new shows on. There's going to be a gingerbread latte, white chocolate mocha.
Well, now maybe things are looking up.
Not Cubs related. No, I mean anything in the Cubs might excite you this offseason that they might do.
I don't know. I'm just really guarded, right? Like, just free agency. I don't want to be like Cody Del Mendo says, like, don't hurt me. Before every Cubs game.
I think it's
please don't hurt me. Like,
just stop hurting me. Yeah.
Stop hurting me.
Please stop hurting me.
Please, it hurts.
It's like they're just punching you in the face or in the right in the gut.
I have my finger on speed dial for the police. I can call it. I mean, I want to be excited for November, December, and free agency, but it's like, look at how long it's taking our GM to sign people like Cody Bellinger. It took him a month to get the Paredes deal done. So I mean, it's like I think I'd be more excited. I mean, I guess I am excited for it to be over, for this season to be over.
That is just so true.
So that's the finality of it. Yeah, football. So I mean, yes and no. No, because I just have a feeling this winter is going to be just as bad. I think we're one of the last teams to get to sign anybody, right?
Yeah, and I mean, they made some trades and a couple small moves, but it took a while for it all to happen. Yeah, nothing much at that the winter meetings. So
I remember we were playing pickleball, and that was when the Thomas Panoni whatever news broke. I was like, whoa,
Thomas Panini.
Check it out.
Name.
I was just like, okay, well, game on. Let's keep playing pickleball.
Yep.
No, it was I mean, it was just not a great time last year, and so I mean, I'm glad it's going to be done with, but I'm not glad because we're going to be sitting through probably 2 or 3 months just waiting for them to sign somebody. I don't know. Who do you think they should go after? Just real quick.
Yeah. So last thought here, just a catcher probably, and then
Danny
a
Jansen
first.
type.
Yeah, and then a first base / DH type guy. And I'd like them to move on from Horner, capitalize on if he ends the season strong, and then get Bush maybe at second, get Shaw eventually at second. Now that you have Paredes at third, and then get a first baseman in there that can also DH. Something like that, I would be excited for. Or maybe that ends up going to Bellinger. I don't know, but I'd like there to be a big bat at first or DH, and then a catcher, and then obviously like an ace pitcher. But that's a lot to get. I don't know if the Cubs can hit on all three of those. They at least need to try. So
I was going to say, what about Moises Ballesteros?
he can play first. I think he should be the bench player until he proves it.
Yeah.
If you're trying to win a World Series, you're not just throwing him in there and expecting him to have a 900 OPS. Get the 900 OPS guy in the door. If Shaw, Ballesteros, Casey, if all those guys show up next year and they're good in the big leagues, which I highly doubt they'll all succeed right away.
Right.
But if they all magically succeed, then you have a good problem on your hands. But I like them to free up space by trading Horner and doing something of that like.
Yeah, they could definitely do that. All right. Well, that concludes our podcast for today. Thanks for joining us here on the Brotherly Cubs podcast. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and join the conversation with us on Twitter at Brotherly Cubs or Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm your big brother, John.
And I'm your little brother, Zach.
And we will see you next week as we recap the 4-game set, right, with the Cardinals and 3 with the Twins. Until next time, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you later.
Peace.
Listen to this crowd.